You are listening to an extended audio preview of Quantum Models of Chaos Magick, written by Adam Lewsome and published by LLH Media. The complete book is available from LLH Media and selected online retailers. Chapter 1: Introduction to Chaos Magick. Chaos magic is among the most enigmatic and controversial currents in the modern Western esoteric tradition. It is a system that, rather than adhering to fixed dogmas or inherited rituals, is characterized by fluidity, pragmatism, and a relentless focus on results. To the outsider, chaos magicians may seem like iconoclasts, irreverent or even disrespectful toward tradition. To the practitioner, however, chaos magic is a living, breathing approach to personal transformation and the manipulation of reality, one that prioritizes effectiveness over orthodoxy and innovation over imitation. To understand chaos magic, it is vital first to situate it within the broader context of Western occultism. The tradition of Western magic is ancient, with roots stretching back to the mystery cults of antiquity, the Hermetic and Neoplatonic revival of the Renaissance, and the secret societies of the 19th and 20th centuries. The Golden Dawn, the Theosophical Society, and Aleister Crowley's Ordo Templi Orientis are just a few of the many organizations that have shaped the esoteric landscape. Each of these traditions constructed elaborate systems of correspondences, rituals, and cosmologies, often drawing on Kabbalah, alchemy, astrology, and other sources. By the late 20th century, however, dissatisfaction with the rigidity and dogmatism of these systems began to emerge among a new generation of magicians. The world was changing rapidly, and so too were the needs and sensibilities of those drawn to the magical arts. The rise of secularism, the proliferation of new philosophies, and the explosion of information technology all contributed to a climate in which the old certainties no longer seemed adequate. It was in this fertile ground that chaos magic took root. Chaos magic emerged in England in the late 1970s, crystallizing around the work of a handful of innovative thinkers and practitioners. Chief among them were Peter J. Carroll and Ray Sherwin, whose writings, particularly Carroll's Liber Nolen Psychonaut and Sherwin's The Book of Results, laid the foundations for what would become the chaos magic movement. Drawing inspiration from the works of Austin Osman Spare, a maverick artist and occultist of the early 20th century, chaos magicians sought to strip magic down to its essentials. Austin Osman Spare, though relatively obscure in his own time, is now recognized as a pivotal figure in the development of chaos magic. Spare's approach was radically individualistic, emphasizing personal gnosis, the power of the subconscious, and the use of sigils, symbols charged with intent and released into the depths of the psyche. Spare rejected the elaborate ceremonialism of his contemporaries, arguing that true magic is spontaneous, intuitive, and ultimately rooted in the will of the practitioner. Peter J. Carroll and Ray Sherwin took up Spare's torch and carried it into the late 20th century. They proposed that magic was not bound by tradition, dogma, or even belief. Instead, belief itself was seen as a tool, something that could be adopted or discarded as circumstances required. This was a radical departure from previous systems, which tended to insist on the objective reality of their magical cosmologies. In chaos magic, nothing is true, everything is permitted. This phrase, "nothing is true, everything is permitted," is often cited as the unofficial motto of chaos magic. It encapsulates the movement's core principle. There are no absolute truths, only provisional models and working hypotheses. The chaos magician is encouraged to experiment freely, adopting beliefs and practices for their utility rather than their supposed truth. If a particular ritual, symbol, or pantheon produces results, it is valid. If not, it is discarded. This pragmatic experimental attitude is perhaps best illustrated by the chaos magician's approach to belief. In conventional magical systems, belief is often seen as a prerequisite for effective practice. One must believe in the reality of the gods, spirits, or magical forces one seeks to invoke. Chaos magicians, by contrast, treat belief as a tool, a technology of consciousness that can be manipulated at will. The chaos magician may, for the purposes of a ritual, adopt the worldview of a shaman, a ceremonial magician, or even an atheist skeptic. Once the ritual is complete, that belief is set aside, like a mask or a costume. This belief as a tool model is closely related to the concept of paradigm shifting, another central tenet of chaos magic. The chaos magician is a chameleon, capable of slipping in and out of different magical paradigms as needed. One day, she may invoke the gods of ancient Egypt. The next, she may employ the symbolic language of quantum physics. The day after that, she may craft a ritual using imagery from comic books or science fiction. The only criterion is effectiveness. Does the chosen paradigm produce the desired change in consciousness or reality? This focus on results is another key principle of chaos magic. All magical systems claim, in one way or another, to be effective. Chaos magicians, however, are ruthlessly pragmatic in their pursuit of results. If a technique works, it is kept. If it fails, it is discarded or modified. This empirical, experimental attitude owes much to the scientific method, and many chaos magicians see themselves as scientists of the mind, testing hypotheses and refining their techniques through observation and experimentation. This is not to say that chaos magicians are materialists or reductionists. On the contrary, many chaos magicians are deeply interested in altered states of consciousness, mystical experience, and the exploration of non-ordinary realities. What distinguishes chaos magic is its refusal to commit to any particular metaphysical explanation for these phenomena. Whether magic works because of spirits, archetypes, quantum entanglement, or psychological mechanisms is ultimately irrelevant. What matters is the experience and the results. The techniques of chaos magic are as varied as its practitioners. Some of the most common include sigillization, meditation, invocation and evocation, pathworking, and the use of altered states of consciousness such as trance, gnosis, or even sensory overload. In particular, has become closely associated with chaos magic. The basic idea is simple. The magician formulates a desire, reduces it to a symbolic form, the sigil, and then charges the sigil with psychic energy, often during a moment of intense focus or ecstasy. The sigil is then forgotten, allowing the desire to sink into the subconscious, where it can work its magic unimpeded by conscious doubts or inhibitions. Another hallmark of chaos magic is its eclecticism. Chaos magicians are notorious for borrowing freely from any and all traditions, often combining elements in novel and sometimes irreverent ways. A chaos magician might, for example, use a Buddhist meditation technique, a Norse runic chant, and a ritual structure borrowed from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, all in the same working. This willingness to mix and match is sometimes criticized as superficial or disrespectful. But for chaos magicians, it is simply a matter of using the right tool for the job. This eclecticism extends beyond traditional magical systems to encompass pop culture, science, and technology. Chaos magicians have been known to invoke fictional characters, use computer algorithms as oracles, or design rituals based on principles of cybernetics or chaos theory. This playful, experimental spirit is one of the defining features of chaos magic, and it reflects a broader trend in contemporary spirituality toward personalization, innovation, and self-expression. Despite its reputation for irreverence and iconoclasm, chaos magic is not without its own ethical considerations. The absence of fixed dogma does not mean the absence of responsibility. Chaos magicians are encouraged to consider the consequences of their actions, both for themselves and for others. The law of unintended consequences is as operative in magic as it is in any other domain, and the wise magician is mindful of the potential for backfire or unintended harm. The history of chaos magic is closely tied to the broader currents of 20th century counterculture. The 1970s and 1980s saw an explosion of interest in alternative spiritualities, new religious movements, and the occult. The punk and industrial music scenes, with their emphasis on DIY ethics and cultural subversion, provided fertile ground for the growth of chaos magic. Zines, small press publications, and later the internet allowed chaos magicians to share ideas, techniques, and experiences outside the constraints of traditional occult organizations. One of the earliest and most influential groups in the chaos magic movement was the Illuminates of Thanateros, or IoT, founded by Carol and Sherwin in the late 1970s. The IoT sought to create a magical order that was open, experimental, and non-hierarchical, in contrast to the secretive and authoritarian structures of earlier occult groups. While the IoT has had its share of controversies and schisms, its influence on the development of chaos magic cannot be overstated. The spread of chaos magic was further accelerated by the rise of the internet in the 1990s and 2000s. Online forums, blogs, and social media platforms allowed chaos magicians from around the world to connect, collaborate, and share their work. This democratization of magical knowledge has led to an explosion of creativity and experimentation, as well as a proliferation of new ideas, techniques, and paradigms. At its core, chaos magic is a response to the uncertainties and complexities of the modern world. In an age of information overload, cultural fragmentation, and rapid technological change, the old certainties no longer hold. Chaos magicians embrace this uncertainty, seeing it not as a problem to be solved, but as a source of creative power. The chaos magician is an explorer, a hacker of reality, constantly testing the boundaries of what is possible. This attitude is reflected in the language of chaos magicians, who often speak in terms of models, paradigms, and maps, rather than truths or dogmas. A model is a provisional framework for understanding and interacting with reality. Models are useful insofar as they produce results, but they are always subject to revision, replacement, or abandonment. This model-agnostic approach is influenced by the philosophy of science, particularly the work of thinkers such as Thomas Kuhn, who argued that scientific progress occurs not through the accumulation of facts, but through periodic paradigm shifts. Chaos magicians are also influenced by developments in psychology, particularly the work of Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, and more recent figures such as Timothy Leary and Robert Anton Wilson. The emphasis on the subconscious, the exploration of altered states, and the use of symbolic language all have roots in psychological theory. Robert Anton Wilson, in particular, with his playful and subversive approach to reality, has been a major influence on the chaos magic movement. The relationship between chaos magic and science is complex and sometimes contentious. On the one hand, chaos magicians borrow freely from scientific concepts, particularly those associated with quantum physics, chaos theory, and cybernetics. Terms such as quantum consciousness, strange attractors, and feedback loops are often used metaphorically to describe magical processes. On the other hand, chaos magicians are generally skeptical of attempts to prove the efficacy of magic using scientific methods. For most chaos magicians, magic is fundamentally subjective, a matter of personal experience and transformation. This does not mean that chaos magicians reject rationality or critical thinking. On the contrary, many chaos magicians are fiercely analytical, subjecting their experiences and beliefs to rigorous scrutiny. The difference is that chaos magicians are willing to entertain multiple, even contradictory models of reality, using each as a tool rather than as an article of faith. This willingness to embrace ambiguity and uncertainty is one of the hallmarks of the chaos magic approach. The core principles of chaos magic can be summarized as follows. First, belief is a tool, not a truth. The chaos magician uses belief strategically, adopting and discarding paradigms as needed to achieve desired results. Second, results matter more than dogma. Techniques and practices are judged by their effectiveness, not by their pedigree or theoretical justification. Third, experience is primary. The chaos magician values direct, personal experience over received wisdom or tradition. Fourth, eclecticism and innovation are encouraged. Chaos magicians are free to borrow, adapt, and invent as they see fit. Finally, responsibility and self-awareness are essential. The chaos magician recognizes the power and potential dangers of magical practice and acts accordingly. To the uninitiated, this may all seem chaotic in the pejorative sense, disorganized, anarchic, even nihilistic. In reality, chaos magicians are often among the most disciplined and self-aware of practitioners. The absence of external authority or dogma places a premium on personal responsibility, critical thinking, and self-mastery. The chaos magician is both scientist and artist, constantly experimenting, refining, and reinventing her practice. One of the enduring challenges of chaos magic is the balance between freedom and structure. Too much freedom can lead to aimlessness or superficiality. Too much structure can ossify into dogma. The most successful chaos magicians are those who develop their own systems, tailored to their unique needs, personalities, and goals. This process of self-creation is itself a kind of magic, a deliberate act of shaping one's reality from the raw materials of experience, imagination, and will. The language of chaos magic is often playful, irreverent, and self-consciously paradoxical. Chaos magicians delight in contradictions, puns, and wordplay. This is not mere frivolity. It is a recognition that language is itself a magical tool, capable of shaping perception and experience. By playing with language, the chaos magician loosens the grip of fixed beliefs and opens herself to new possibilities. The influence of chaos magic can be seen in many areas of contemporary culture, from the rise of DIY spirituality to the popularity of mindfulness, meditation, and self-help techniques. The emphasis on personal experience, experimentation, and self-empowerment has resonated with a generation seeking alternatives to traditional religion and authority. At the same time, chaos magic's willingness to embrace ambiguity, play, and paradox has made it attractive to artists, writers, and thinkers interested in pushing the boundaries of perception and reality. The relationship between chaos magic and technology is particularly noteworthy. From its earliest days, chaos magicians have been quick to adopt and adapt new technologies, whether in the form of computer-based divination systems, online magical communities, or the use of biofeedback and neurofeedback devices to explore altered states of consciousness. The internet in particular has been a boon to chaos magicians, allowing for the rapid dissemination of ideas, the formation of virtual communities, and the creation of collaborative magical projects. Some chaos magicians have gone so far as to suggest that technology itself is a kind of magic, a means of shaping reality through the manipulation of symbols, information, and energy. This is not as far-fetched as it might seem. Both magicians and technologists are concerned with the transformation of reality, the extension of human capabilities, and the exploration of new possibilities. The boundaries between science, art, and magic are increasingly porous, and chaos magicians are at the forefront of this convergence. The rise of quantum physics in the 20th century has provided chaos magicians with a rich source of metaphors, models, and inspiration. Concepts such as uncertainty, indeterminacy, and non-locality resonate deeply with the chaos magic worldview. While it is important to distinguish between the scientific and the metaphorical uses of these concepts, there is no denying the appeal of quantum models for those interested in exploring the mysteries of consciousness, perception, and reality. At the same time, chaos magicians are wary of the pitfalls of quantum woo, the uncritical appropriation of scientific concepts to justify magical beliefs or practices. The responsible chaos magician recognizes the difference between metaphor and explanation and is careful not to conflate the two. Quantum physics, like all models, is a tool, not a truth. The challenge is to use it creatively and responsibly, without falling into the trap of pseudoscience or wishful thinking. The future of chaos magic is uncertain, as befits a tradition that embraces uncertainty. What is clear is that chaos magic has had a profound impact on the landscape of contemporary spirituality, offering a model of practice that is flexible, innovative, and deeply empowering. As the world continues to change at a dizzying pace, the principles and techniques of chaos magic are likely to become even more relevant. In summary, chaos magic is a dynamic, evolving tradition that challenges conventional notions of belief, authority, and reality. It is rooted in the recognition that reality is malleable, that belief is a tool, and that personal experience is the ultimate arbiter of truth. By embracing uncertainty, experimentation, and creative play, chaos magicians seek to shape their own destinies, and in the process, to explore the deepest mysteries of existence. The journey of chaos magic is not for everyone. It demands courage, creativity, and a willingness to question everything, including one's own assumptions and beliefs. For those who are drawn to its path, however, chaos magic offers a toolkit for self-transformation and a map for exploring the uncharted territories of consciousness and reality. In the chapters that follow, we will delve deeper into the principles, techniques, and models of chaos magic, exploring how the insights of quantum physics and other sciences can enrich and expand the practice of the modern magician. Whether you are a seasoned practitioner or a curious newcomer, the world of chaos magic invites you to play, to experiment, and above all, to create. Chapter 2. The Evolution of Magical Paradigms. Magic, as an expression of human consciousness and creativity, has evolved through myriad forms over millennia. The journey from ancient shamanic rites to the eclectic, postmodern practices of chaos magic is a tapestry woven from cultural, philosophical, and psychological threads. In tracing the evolution of magical paradigms, we uncover not just the shifting contours of belief, but also the ways in which humanity has sought to shape, understand, and transcend the boundaries of reality itself. The origins of magical thought can be found in the earliest stirrings of human self-awareness. Paleolithic peoples, gazing at the flicker of fire and the dance of shadows on cave walls, saw the world as alive with spirits and forces. Their magic was animistic, rooted in the conviction that every stone, tree, and animal possessed its own consciousness and agency. The shaman, as intermediary between the mundane and the numinous, navigated these realms through trance, song, and ritual. Magic in this context was inseparable from survival. It governed the hunt, the harvest, and the rhythms of birth and death. The shaman's role was not merely to influence events, but to maintain harmony between the seen and unseen worlds. As societies grew more complex, so too did their magical systems. The rise of agriculture and urbanization in the Neolithic era gave birth to priesthoods and temples. Magic became codified, its secrets guarded by an elite. In Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, we find the first written spells, amulets, and incantations. The gods took on more defined shapes, and magic became a means of negotiating with these cosmic powers. The distinction between magic and religion was not yet clear. Both operated within a worldview that saw the divine as immanent in nature. Rituals were performed to ensure the fertility of the land, the favor of the gods, and the protection of the community. In ancient Egypt, magic, Heka, was considered a fundamental force of the cosmos. The magician, or Hekau, wielded words of power to heal, protect, and transform. Papyrus scrolls preserve elaborate spells invoking the gods, manipulating the afterlife, and even compelling the dead. Similar traditions flourished elsewhere. The Magoi, originally Persian priests, became associated with arcane knowledge. The Greeks distinguished between theurgy, which sought union with the divine, and Goetia, which manipulated spirits for personal gain. The Hermetic tradition, emerging in Hellenistic Egypt, blended Greek philosophy with Egyptian magic, positing that the universe was a living being animated by mind, and that humans as microcosms could influence the macrocosm through ritual and meditation. The Roman Empire inherited and expanded these traditions. The cult of Mithras, the mysteries of Isis, and the rites of Eleusis all offered initiates access to hidden realms. Magic, however, occupied an ambiguous place in Roman society. While augury and divination were sanctioned, other forms of magic were condemned as superstitio, dangerous, illicit, and subversive. This ambivalence foreshadowed later Christian attitudes toward magic, which would oscillate between assimilation and persecution. With the rise of Christianity, the magical worldview faced a formidable challenge. The Church sought to establish itself as the sole mediator between humanity and the divine, relegating other forms of magic to the realm of heresy or diabolism. Yet magical thinking persisted, often in disguised or syncretic forms. The grimoires of the Middle Ages, texts like the Key of Solomon or the Picatrix, preserved ancient techniques of summoning, binding, and exorcism. Alchemy, astrology, and Kabbalah flourished in the margins of orthodoxy, offering alternative paths to knowledge and power. The Renaissance marked a crucial turning point in the evolution of magical paradigms. The rediscovery of Hermetic and Neoplatonic texts inspired a revival of esoteric philosophy. Figures like Marsilio Ficino, Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, and Cornelius Agrippa argued that magic was a natural science, rooted in the correspondences between the celestial and terrestrial realms. Ficino's translation of the Corpus Hermeticum presented magic as a means of spiritual ascent, while Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy systematized the magical arts into a coherent framework. Magic in this context was not opposed to religion or reason, but complemented them. It was a quest for gnosis, direct knowledge of the divine. This Renaissance synthesis, however, was short-lived. The scientific revolution ushered in a new paradigm, one that privileged empirical observation and mechanistic explanations. The universe was increasingly seen as a vast, impersonal machine governed by immutable laws. Magic, once the queen of the sciences, was relegated to superstition and fantasy. Yet the legacy of magical thinking endured, often in unexpected ways. Isaac Newton, father of classical physics, spent as much time studying alchemy as he did formulating the laws of motion. The Romantic era saw a renewed interest in the occult, as artists and poets sought to reclaim the mysteries banished by Enlightenment rationalism. The 19th century witnessed the emergence of new magical movements, shaped by both ancient traditions and modern innovations. The Theosophical Society, founded by Helena Blavatsky, synthesized Eastern and Western esoteric teachings, introducing concepts like karma, reincarnation, and the astral plane to a Western audience. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, established in 1888, drew upon Kabbalah, tarot, astrology, and ceremonial magic to create an elaborate system of initiation and self-transformation. Its members included such luminaries as W.B. Yeats and Aleister Crowley, whose own system of Thelema would become a pivotal influence on 20th century occultism. The Golden Dawn and its offshoots marked a significant development in magical thought. Ritual magic was no longer the preserve of secretive priesthoods or hereditary witches, but accessible to anyone willing to study and practice. The emphasis shifted from external results, such as wealth or love spells, to internal transformation. Magic became a path of self-discovery, a means of realizing one's true will or higher self. This psychological turn was further developed by figures like Crowley, who saw magic as the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will. For Crowley, magical practice was inseparable from the cultivation of consciousness. The early 20th century also saw the birth of modern witchcraft, or Wicca, through the efforts of Gerald Gardner and others. Drawing on folkloric traditions, ceremonial magic, and Eastern philosophy, Wicca presented a nature-based, initiatory religion centered on the cycles of the moon, the worship of a goddess and god, and the practice of ritual magic. Wicca's emphasis on personal experience, ethical responsibility, and the sanctity of nature resonated with the countercultural currents of the 1960s and 70s, paving the way for a wider revival of paganism and magical practice. It was in this fertile milieu that chaos magic emerged. The late 20th century was a period of rapid social, technological, and intellectual change. Postmodern philosophy questioned the very foundations of knowledge, truth, and reality. Science itself was undergoing a revolution, as quantum physics revealed a universe far stranger and less deterministic than the clockwork cosmos of Newton. Against this backdrop, a new breed of magicians began to question the assumptions underlying traditional magical systems. Chaos magic, as articulated by figures like Peter J. Carroll and Ray Sherwin in the late 1970s and early 80s, represented a radical break with the past. Where previous systems sought to preserve, codify, and transmit ancient wisdom, chaos magicians embraced innovation, experimentation, and individual freedom. The central insight of chaos magic is that belief itself is a tool, a technology of consciousness. Rather than adhering to a single set of dogmas, the chaos magician adopts and discards beliefs as needed, crafting personalized rituals and symbols to achieve desired results. This approach reflects the influence of postmodernism, with its skepticism toward grand narratives and fixed truths. Chaos magicians view magical systems not as repositories of eternal wisdom, but as models, maps rather than territories. Rituals, symbols, and deities are seen as psychological constructs, lenses through which the mind interacts with the underlying chaos of reality. The magician becomes a psychonaut, navigating inner and outer worlds with playful seriousness. The roots of chaos magic can be traced to several intellectual and cultural currents. The work of Austin Osman Spare, an early 20th century artist and occultist, was particularly influential. Spare rejected the elaborate ceremonialism of the Golden Dawn in favor of a more intuitive, individualistic approach. He developed techniques such as sigilization, in which desires are encoded into symbols and charged through altered states of consciousness. Spare's emphasis on the power of the subconscious, the use of trance, and the fluidity of belief anticipated many of the core principles of chaos magic. The rise of modern psychology also played a crucial role. Sigmund Freud's theories of the unconscious, Carl Jung's exploration of archetypes and the collective unconscious, and William James' investigations into altered states all contributed to a new understanding of the mind as a dynamic, multifaceted reality. Magic, in this light, became a means of hacking one's own consciousness, reprogramming beliefs and behaviors through ritual, symbolism, and intention. The counterculture of the 1960s and 70s provided further fertile ground. The psychedelic revolution, the rise of cybernetics, and the spread of Eastern philosophies challenged traditional assumptions about reality and the self. Figures like Robert Anton Wilson, Timothy Leary, and John C. Lilly explored the boundaries of consciousness through drugs, meditation, and technology. Wilson's concept of reality tunnels, the idea that perception is shaped by belief systems, echoes the chaos magician's practice of shifting paradigms at will. Against this backdrop, chaos magic emerged as both a critique and an evolution of previous magical paradigms. Its practitioners rejected the authority of tradition, scripture, and hierarchy, emphasizing instead the primacy of personal experience and experimentation. The chaos magician is encouraged to invent new rituals, combine disparate elements, and question everything, even the foundational assumptions of magic itself. This radical openness has led to a remarkable diversity of practices. Chaos magicians may invoke ancient gods one day and fictional characters the next, employ techniques from shamanism, yoga, or cybernetics, and utilize modern technologies such as computers and biofeedback devices. The only rule is that there are no rules, except those that the magician chooses to adopt, and even these are provisional. At the heart of chaos magic is a recognition of the plasticity of reality. The world is not a fixed objective entity, but a field of potential shaped by perception, intention, and action. This insight resonates with developments in quantum physics, which reveal that observation and measurement play a fundamental role in determining the behavior of matter and energy. Just as the act of observation collapses a quantum wave function into a particular state, so too does the act of magical intention shape the fabric of experience. The evolution of magical paradigms, then, can be seen as a movement from dogma to dialogue, from fixed systems to flexible models, from external authority to internal exploration. Chaos magic stands at the culmination of this trajectory, embodying a dynamic, playful, and experimental approach to the mysteries of consciousness and the cosmos. Yet chaos magic is not a rejection of tradition, so much as a transformation of it. Its practitioners are often deeply versed in the history and techniques of earlier systems, drawing upon them as sources of inspiration and raw material. The difference lies in attitude. Rather than seeking to preserve or restore a lost golden age, chaos magicians treat magical systems as toolkits, to be adapted, recombined, or discarded as circumstances require. This pragmatic approach is reflected in the core practices of chaos magic. Sigilization, for example, draws upon ancient techniques of sympathetic magic, but reframes them in psychological terms. The chaos magician creates a symbol representing a desire, charges it through altered states of consciousness, and then forgets it, allowing the subconscious to work unimpeded. This process bypasses the critical faculties of the conscious mind, enabling the practitioner to reprogram beliefs and behaviors at a deep level. Similarly, the use of paradigm shifting, adopting different belief systems for specific purposes, reflects an understanding of the mind as a theater of possibilities. By temporarily inhabiting different worldviews, the magician expands their repertoire of perception and action, cultivating flexibility, creativity, and resilience. This practice echoes the anthropological concept of bricolage, the art of assembling new structures from available materials. The evolution of magical paradigms also mirrors broader trends in science, philosophy, and culture. The shift from the mechanistic universe of Newton to the probabilistic cosmos of quantum physics parallels the movement from fixed magical systems to the open-ended experimentation of chaos magic. Both recognize the role of the observer, the importance of context, and the indeterminacy at the heart of reality. In this light, chaos magic can be seen as a bridge between ancient wisdom and contemporary science, offering a methodology for exploring the frontiers of consciousness and creativity. Its emphasis on experimentation, feedback, and self-reflection aligns with the scientific method, while its use of symbolism, ritual, and altered states draws upon the perennial insights of the magical tradition. The journey from shamanic trance to chaos magic is thus not a linear progression, but a spiral dance, returning again and again to the mysteries of consciousness, agency, and transformation. Each paradigm offers its own insights, techniques, and challenges, reflecting the evolving needs and aspirations of humanity. Chaos magic, with its emphasis on flexibility, creativity, and self-determination, represents the latest stage in this ongoing adventure. As we trace the evolution of magical thought, we see that magic is not merely a set of beliefs or practices, but a way of engaging with the world, a mode of inquiry, a technology of the imagination, and a path of self-discovery. It is, in the words of Arthur C. Clarke, any sufficiently advanced technology indistinguishable from magic. In the hands of the chaos magician, this technology is not a relic of the past, but a living, evolving practice, one that invites us to question, to experiment, and to create new realities. The rise of chaos magic also reflects a broader shift in the culture of magic itself. Where earlier traditions often emphasized secrecy, hierarchy, and initiation, chaos magicians champion openness, accessibility, and play. The proliferation of books, zines, and online forums has democratized access to magical knowledge, fostering a global community of practitioners who share techniques, experiences, and insights. This networked approach mirrors the decentralized, participatory ethos of the internet age, in which authority is distributed and innovation is collective. Yet this democratization is not without its challenges. The absence of fixed dogmas or central authorities can lead to fragmentation, superficiality, or even nihilism. Critics argue that chaos magic's embrace of relativism risks undermining the depth and rigor of magical practice. Without a coherent system or shared values, magic can become little more than self-indulgent fantasy. Proponents of chaos magic, however, counter that its very openness is its strength. By encouraging critical thinking, personal responsibility, and creative experimentation, chaos magic equips practitioners to navigate the complexities of contemporary life. In a world marked by uncertainty, complexity, and rapid change, flexibility and adaptability are essential virtues. Chaos magicians are not content to passively inherit the beliefs of the past. They seek to actively shape their own realities. This ethos resonates with the broader currents of postmodern culture. In art, literature, and philosophy, the late 20th and early 21st centuries have witnessed a proliferation of styles, genres, and perspectives. The boundaries between high and low culture, fact and fiction, reality and simulation have become increasingly porous. Chaos magicians revel in this ambiguity, drawing inspiration from sources as diverse as comic books, science fiction, computer games, and pop culture. The result is a vibrant, eclectic, and ever-evolving magical landscape. The evolution of magical paradigms is thus not merely a matter of historical curiosity, but a living process, one that continues to unfold in the present. Chaos magic represents both a culmination and a new beginning, a synthesis of tradition and innovation, order and chaos. Its central insight, that belief is a tool and reality is negotiable, offers a powerful framework for navigating the uncertainties of modern life. As we look to the future, it is likely that magic will continue to evolve, adapting to new technologies, cultures, and challenges. The rise of artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and biotechnology opens up new frontiers for magical exploration. Chaos magicians are already experimenting with digital sigils, cyber rituals, and machine-assisted trance states, blurring the boundaries between the human and the technological, the magical and the scientific. In this rapidly changing landscape, the core principles of chaos magic, flexibility, experimentation, and self-determination are more relevant than ever. By embracing uncertainty, cultivating creativity, and taking responsibility for their own beliefs and actions, chaos magicians embody a spirit of inquiry and adventure that has animated the magical tradition from its earliest days. The evolution of magical paradigms is, in the end, a story of human imagination, a testament to our capacity to dream, to question, and to transform ourselves and our world. From the shaman's cave to the digital temple, magic has always been a mirror of the human soul, reflecting our deepest fears, hopes, and aspirations. Chaos magic, as the latest chapter in this story, invites us to step beyond the limits of certainty, to embrace the unknown, and to become co-creators of reality. In tracing this evolution, we gain not only a deeper understanding of magic, but also of ourselves. For magic in all its forms is ultimately a dialogue between the mind and the cosmos, a dance of order and chaos, intention and chance, meaning and mystery. Chaos magic, with its playful seriousness and radical openness, challenges us to become conscious participants in this dance, to wield the power of belief with skill and discernment, and to forge new paths through the labyrinth of possibility. The journey from ancient shamanism to chaos magic is not a rejection of the past, but a reinvention of it. You have been listening to an extended preview with Quantum Models of Chaos Magick. To continue reading, visit the LLH Media Store or the book's Amazon listing.